You're about to imagine a world where the thrill of NASCAR racing knows no bounds, where drivers are free to push the limits of speed and aggression without fear of consequences. This is a world without rules, where the only thing that matters is winning at all costs. Imagine being a NASCAR driver, with no safety protocols to protect you from the harsh realities of high-speed racing. No helmet to shield your head from impact, no seatbelt to keep you secure in your seat, and no protective barriers to cushion the blow if you crash. The risk of injury or death would skyrocket, making racing a deadly sport. You're on the track, surrounded by drivers who are just as hungry for victory as you are. But without rules, the game changes. Drivers are free to block, bump, or even crash into each other with impunity. The track becomes a battleground, with drivers fighting for position at all costs. Good sportsmanship goes out the window, replaced by a cutthroat mentality that puts winning above all else. As a fan, you'd be thrilled by the unpredictability and danger of racing without rules. But you'd also be repelled by the risk of serious injury or death and the lack of respect among drivers. The sport would become a spectacle, but one that's hard to stomach. And as the injuries mount and the body count rises, fans would start to lose interest. The sport would suffer a significant decline in popularity, and the thrill of racing would be replaced by the fear of what could happen. But here's the thing. In a world without rules, the racing would be faster, but it would also be more violent. Drivers would be pushing the limits of what's humanly possible, but at what cost? The thrill of racing would be replaced by the fear of what could happen next. And as the sport continues to spiral out of control, you have to wonder, is the thrill of racing worth the risk of losing it all? In a rule-less world, the thrill of NASCAR racing would be unmatched. You'd witness drivers pushing the limits of speed and innovation, potentially leading to breakthroughs in technology and performance. Imagine being one of them, feeling the rush of adrenaline as you take risks and make bold moves on the track. The absence of rules would create a level playing field where the fastest and most skilled drivers would rise to the top. But would this be a good thing? The pros of a rule-less world would be numerous. Drivers would be free to experiment with new techniques and strategies, leading to a more exciting and unpredictable sport. The competition would be fierce, with drivers constantly trying to outdo each other. However, this would come at a cost. The risk of serious injury or death would skyrocket, as drivers would be more aggressive and reckless. The absence of rules would lead to a lack of respect among drivers, with a focus on winning at all costs. This raises questions about the impact on drivers and teams. Would they be able to adapt to a new level of risk and uncertainty, or would the pressure prove too much? How would teams innovate and develop new strategies to stay ahead of the competition while dealing with the increased risk of failure? The business side of racing would also be severely impacted, with sponsors and investors reevaluating their involvement in the sport. Imagine you're standing on the edge of the NASCAR universe, staring into a void where rules no longer exist. The thrill of racing is still there, but the game has changed. In a world without rules, innovation would know no bounds, and drivers would need to adapt to a new reality. Think of the possibilities. Advanced aerodynamics, cutting-edge materials, and experimental designs would become the norm. Drivers and teams would need to innovate faster than their competitors, pushing the limits of speed and performance. This would drive growth and progress, potentially leading to breakthroughs that would revolutionize the sport. However, a rule-less world would also bring significant challenges. Without a framework to guide them, drivers and teams would struggle to adapt to the new environment. Consistency and fairness would become major concerns, and the risk of serious injury or death would remain a major worry. Sponsors and investors would reevaluate their involvement in the sport, as the uncertain landscape would make it difficult to predict outcomes. As NASCAR navigates this uncharted territory, drivers and teams would need to develop new skills and mental toughness. They would need to manage risk, make calculated decisions, and adapt to a world where the rules are constantly changing. The future of NASCAR in a rule-less world would be uncertain, but it would be filled with opportunities for growth and progress. What do you think the sport would look like in this new reality?